This is a meeting of the Municipal Services Committee of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Wilmette. Staff will now call the roll.
Trustee Kennedy? Here. Trustee Kurzman?
Here.
Chairman Sullivan?
Here. Good evening. This meeting is being conducted remotely via Microsoft Teams. For those watching this video in the future, the state of Illinois is currently under a stay-at-home order issued by Governor J.B. Pritzker due to the coronavirus global pandemic. As a result, all in-person governmental meetings have been canceled. However, the Open Meetings Act now permits electronic meetings at governmental bodies like the Municipal Services Committee, and this evening we are conducting our business in compliance with the state law. This meeting is being broadcast live on our local cable access channel 6. It is also being broadcast on the internet on YouTube Live, and the URL for that is www.youtube.com/user/village-of-Wilmette/live. If you would like to participate in the meeting, you may use the Microsoft Teams app on any device for free. No sign-in is required. The link to join each meeting is posted on the website calendar at wilmette.com/calendar. The meeting will be archived on the village website, as we do with our other televised public meetings. A remote meeting requires a different mechanic for public participation. To ensure that our residents, business owners, and our interested parties have the opportunity to participate in this meeting, we have solicited public comment prior to the start of the meeting via email. If you send an email to publiccomment@wilmette.com prior to the start of the meeting, our staff will read the email during the public comment portion of our agenda. If members of the public who are watching the broadcast would like to participate during our designated public comment periods, you may submit your comments through YouTube Live at the appropriate time, and a member of the village staff will read your comment to the Municipal Services Committee. All comments to the Municipal Services will be recorded in the meeting minutes, as we typically do. Everyone who will have joined the meeting today will be muted. When it is time for public comments, those joining us through Teams can toggle to their mute status by clicking on the microphone icon on the meeting toolbar. Those joining us by audio conference dial-in can toggle their mute status by pressing *6. Only attendees can unmute themselves. No one can unmute another attendee. And just a reminder that public comment can also be provided by emailing publiccomment@wilmette.com or through the village's YouTube live stream. Before the meeting, the Municipal Services Committee receives a packet of agenda materials. These materials are also posted on wilmette.com so that residents and other interested parties can review the very same materials that the Municipal Services Committee members received. This meeting packet contains the agenda, minutes of the last Municipal Services Committee meeting, 2 agenda items, and public comment. Now I will move on to the agenda. All right. So as I mentioned, this is a Municipal Services Committee on Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020 at 6 o'clock p.m. Our first item on the agenda is the call of order, which I think we have done. The second item is approval of minutes of the June 28, 2020 meeting of the Municipal Services Committee. Are there any questions, comments, clarifications on the minutes?
No, I move we approve the minutes. This is Gina.
Trustee Kennedy, thank you. Trustee Kurzman, are you supportive? And
yes, I'll second it.
Do we need to call a individual vote for that, Bridget?
Yes.
Yeah. And Bridget's on mute.
Thank you. I'll call the roll. Trustee Kennedy?
Yes.
Trustee Kurzman?
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan?
Yes. Thank you. We're all getting used to muting and unmuting in a timely manner. Our third item this evening is review of our Central Avenue private-led service line discussion. And so, Bridget, am I turn that over to you?
Yes, thank you. So before we get into trustee discussion, there's a few important points from the memorandum that I'd just like to go through. This request is for committee concurrence to provide pitchers and filter cartridges and lead sampling for homes impacted by the Central Avenue water main replacement project. A few important points regarding this discussion. First and foremost, Wilmette's drinking water is safe and in compliance with all federal, state, and local regulations. There are several federal, state, and state regulations that are pending regarding lead in drinking water. The two requests the committee is asked to consider are interim measures only to protect our customers from lead exposure and provide the village board with more data moving forward. The data in the form of the sampling will be useful when the lead regulations become law. When these new laws are passed, the village will develop a comprehensive lead water service policy. This is not the purpose of the discussion tonight, however. Our agenda request is a very narrow request. We will refer to water services during this discussion, so I wanted to make sure we all understand how water service function in Wilmette. According to the village code, the water services that connect homes to the public water supply are both privately and publicly owned. From the public main to the Buffalo Box, which is the shutoff valve in the parkway, this portion of the service is public. From the Buffalo Box to the home is privately owned and maintained by the homeowner. When the village replaces a water main, we always replace the public portion of the water service to copper. Lead exposure can come from several sources, including plumbing materials inside a home, as well as disruptions to the water main or service, as is the case with the water main replacement project. As a result, staff recommends this new procedure of providing pitchers and filters at an approximate cost of $20,000 and voluntary pre- and post-construction water sampling, also at a cost of $20,000 for all homes on Central Avenue that are impacted by the water main replacement. I'm sure there'll be many questions that the committee has tonight, and we'll do our best to answer them. Joining me tonight are the Director of Water Management, Mr. Quaffichet, our Village Engineer, Dan Manus, as well as our Water and Sewer Superintendent, Matt Overeem. And that's all that's all I had as far as prepared comments. So, Trustee Sullivan, it's back to you.
I'll turn out Trustee Kennedy or Trustee Kurzman. We received a lengthy packet, and I think everybody's had individual conversations, but any questions for Bridget and the team?
I have a question regarding the period of time that you're supplying these water filter kits. It variously refers to it as 3 to 5 months. How do you determine the length of time that it's appropriate to use those?
Matt, can you jump in on that one?
Yes. The amount of time would be immediate at the start of construction till the service has been changed out, and possibly even longer. That's why it extends to 3 to 5 months on there. So basically, when we start the water main construction till the service is ended, and at least 30 to 45 days after that. Nabil, would you agree with that?
Matt, I would also say that if the home is tested and the lead levels are lower than within the acceptable range, then there would be no need to continue with the filters.
That is correct.
The initial supply of filter cartridges, depending on water use, would last between 3 and 5 months for an average homeowner.
And then you would test the water supply in each home and decide whether they need to continue use?
That's correct. If the homeowner chose to be part of that testing program.
I see. Thank you.
Well, I just have an observation, and that is, and some of this I asked offline, but it might help for folks to know about sort of why we're offering this service to these residents when we have done similar projects elsewhere. And then just a personal observation based on having received a lot of concerned emails from people about lead. It's one of the challenges for this is actually it's like sometimes it feels like the more info you give to assuage the concern, the more concern it raises, and so it sort of puts you in a weird spot from a messaging perspective. But back to the offering of these services that we haven't elsewhere, it would be helpful to provide peace of mind to other residents who have had these changes nearby and were not offered, the pictures and whatnot, that we haven't been subjecting them to to potential danger. So I wonder if it's a long-winded way of trying to set up an opportunity for the public to understand why we're offering some new services that we haven't previously.
Sure. Thank you, Trustee Kurzman. It's really a function of timing. The last few water main projects that we've had, the most recent being on Locust Road, there were no lead services that we found. There was an abandoned home that we couldn't gain entry in that was determined to have lead as we were transferring the service. But every other home on Locust Road had already had a copper service. Prior to that, the last water main project that we built where there were leaded services was Sheridan Road in 2008 and 2009. And back at that time, there wasn't any discussion about lead. So the whole concept is relatively new within the last, I would say, 3 to 5 years. And during that time, the projects that we've had either didn't have lead services or we just simply haven't had any water main projects.
Okay, no, that's helpful. So when residents came to me who lived sort of in the off of Hibbard Road in the northern part of the village, like it wasn't Cranston or one of those sort of up there, that was not a water main, but they certainly were receiving lead notices that
Yes. Okay.
That's a concern.
Yeah, sure. Trustee Kurzman's referring to the standard lead notification letter that is in your packet. Anytime the village either has a water main replacement project or a water main break, or if we have to do maintenance on a water service, we always hand this letter out to the homeowner. And it's really meant to educate the homeowner on the dangers of lead and alert them to the fact that the type of work that we were engaging in could have disrupted lead in their line. So it gives them resources on where to go for more information, but more importantly, gives them guidance on how to flush their system to make sure that they're limiting any exposure.
Yeah, thank you.
I just want to add to Bridget, it's really within the last 2 years since Flint, all of this, the new notifications, all of that came from that event, just to ensure that consumers are informed of the risks.
Thank you.
Trustee Kurzman, I agree with your comment. The more we talk about it, the more it's concerning, and which is the lengthy conversation that I had with Bridget as we were preparing this agenda. And I think it's good work. I can support this because I think, the key is we have very good water. We have a good team that distributes that water and the education. And so, as much as we continue to educate our residents on the comfort and the safety we have, but I think this is just a prudent decision for this amount of expense, just to alleviate any concerns for those residents.
So, Richard, what is it that you would like us to do tonight in regard to this program?
We don't need a motion. It's really just to receive your concurrence, which it sounds like we're on our path to getting. So no formal action is required on our part.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to bring it to the village board since it's not in budget, or how will that be presented?
Well, both of these purchases would be under the value that we'd have to go to the village board, so it's under Mike Brayman's authority to make those purchases. So you'll see in the budget section, it is unbudgeted, it would come out of reserves, or even some of the savings that we have in the water main project on Central, which we'll talk about at the board meeting.
So can I just ask a clarifying question that we're addressing pitchers and filters and pre and post construction water sampling?
Correct.
Okay.
Do you just a vote, or do you feel?
I don't need a vote.
Yeah, I mean, let staff move forward with this. Trustee Kurzman, Trustee Kennedy.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Sounds pretty resounding to me there, Bridget.
Chairman Sullivan, I think we have some residents on the line who might want to comment, however. So.
Do I control that, or does somebody else control that?
No, I think all we have to do is ask if there's anybody on the meeting who would like to provide public comment. Now would be the time to do so.
Well, thank you for reminding me of how to do this. I will open it up for any public comment, even though I can't see anybody.
And we should remind people they'll need to unmute themselves to be heard.
Yes, thank you.
Right. We'll give it a little bit of extra. Obviously, it's not Trustee Kurzman's cat that wants to comment.
Oh, man. I've got 2 young kittens that are wreaking havoc around me, so I apologize.
I'm just sort of following the board meetings. I know, is there somebody that can help, or maybe Peter, if you're on, make sure people are working the technology if they want to comment?
I would toss to Alex if you've received any comments on this agenda item. Mr. Artiega?
This is Alex Artiega. We have not received any comments through the public comment email, and we have not received any comments on YouTube Live as well.
So, I guess I'm on mute.
Right, and just Trustee Sullivan, this is Peter Skiles. I would just remind the attendees, the audio conference attendees, to unmute themselves. You just press *6 on your phone, and if you have the Teams client, if you have a touch-enabled device, you can just tap your screen to wake up a little toolbar. There's a microphone icon on that toolbar. You can just tap that to toggle your mute status on and off.
I'll do 30 seconds just in case. How's that?
I have a quick question.
Sure. I can't see who you are, so all I would ask is just provide your name and where you live.
Sure, Jason Morris over at 509 Central Avenue. Sorry if it's a dumb question, but I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about what the filter actually is in the picture. Is this just for drinking water, or is it something that would filter kind of the entire water supply for the home?
It's just for drinking water.
Okay.
Like you've probably seen like a Brita pitcher with a internal filter cartridge.
Got it. That makes sense. Okay. Just wanted to confirm it wasn't something I wasn't familiar with. Thanks.
Sure.
Further, if not, we'll consider this item finalized, and if for whatever reason somebody comes on, we'll be flexible, but it's, I think we've afforded enough time that people wanted to ask a question, so I'm comfortable moving to agenda item number 4, which is the neighborhood storage project phase 2 construction contractor discussion.
Thank you, Chairman Sullivan. The purpose of this agenda item is to discuss contractor selection for the next phase of the neighborhood storage project at Hibbard Park. There is no action requested by the board for this item. It's just to hopefully receive some guidance from the board. If the board decides to continue with neighborhood storage next year, the construction is slated to begin in January. So we are very much in the heat of the design for phase 2 in preparation for that January schedule. There are several methods of securing a contractor. The most common is the traditional design, bid, and then build. There's also a hybrid called design build. That's what the village utilized for the West Park project. And then the last option is to waive the competitive bid process and negotiate directly with a contractor. The purpose of this agenda item is to discuss this last option. Based on the success we've had so far with the Phase 1 contractor at Community Playfield, village staff is asking the committee to consider allowing staff to negotiate construction pricing for Phase 2 with Berger Excavating. The memo outlines the reasons staff believes Berger would be a good choice for next year. I think the most important factor, however, is making sure the village board is comfortable that staff can reach a price that the board deems fair and competitive. Staff and the consulting team would use the pricing received for this year as a benchmark and then research comparable pricing for bid items not included in the Phase 1 bid. There's no guarantee that this process would work. Staff would only bring a formal recommendation to waive bids and award to Berger if we were confident that the pricing is in line with what we would expect if the project were competitively bid. If we cannot reach an agreement, then we would proceed with a traditional competitive bid process. So I'm happy to go into all the reasons why we believe Berger is a good choice. I'll just say that for a project of this magnitude, it has gone exceedingly smoothly to date, and we're confident that that will continue. I think a lot of this is the contractor's exceptional cooperation with the entire team and staff to address resident concerns and basically do what they have to make sure that their client, the village, is happy. And they've been able to accomplish that. And their workmanship and the quality of the project is second to none. They truly are the premier storm trap installer in the Chicago region, and it shows.
I'm happy to go first this time, but Bridget, you and the team have done a terrific job leading this project. Obviously it's great to see that work is being done and dirt is being moved and the installation and regular updates. It seems like they have been a very good partner. When you and I discussed it, where I got comfortable with this is we're a lot smarter today given the process going through Phase 1. Which was a very well done and well orchestrated phase. I would just say, I'm supportive of continuing with Berger and hope that, the superstitious side of me, this doesn't jinx anything. I don't think it will. I have confidence that they'll want to do quality work, but if for whatever reason Phase 2 budget comes off and the numbers as you tie out their numbers and something's way off, because we're smarter today than we were a year ago when we put it out. We come back and revisit that, but I'm supportive if it's an efficient process and a contractor we know that seems to be doing good work in the village. So I'll turn it over to Trustee Kennedy or Kurzman or any other thoughts or concerns.
I just have if you could refresh my recollection, we didn't get that many bids for Phase 1, did we? I think it was 2 or 3.
We had 5.
5, okay, I'm mistaken. How many of those were competitive or within the range of something we would accept?
That's a really good question. I don't have those numbers right in my head. I know the number 1 and number 2 contractor were very close, and I think even the third were within a reasonable percentage of the first 2. In other words, there wasn't a wide spread between your low bidder and your high bidder. They were all pretty competitive and close together.
Okay.
Trustee Kennedy, I remember, I knew it was fine, and I always thought 3 because there were 3 very, very close.
Yeah, I sort of remembered 3 too, and that's, I guess, now I know why.
I thought there was one outlier though, Bridget, but we can go back to the notes.
Yeah, I can look it up and share that information after the meeting.
And just, this may sound silly, but you're not related to Berger Construction, are you?
No, in fact, I've been told I should drop my last name.
I was one of those people that said that.
I asked it too. I mean, what are you going to do?
No, I want to make it perfectly clear. There is absolutely, in fact, I've only worked with Berger one other time. I have 0 relationship other than professional with them.
And that's public knowledge. Thanks.
Yeah, no, it has to be restated publicly. I think that, I'm glad you asked that. I didn't want to be the one to do it, but it's important. It's important. And what an amazing coincidence. I'm also okay with proceeding as recommended. I don't think it's any of our favorite thing to do, to be, no bid, so to speak. But there is just no way around how excellent their work has been, and we need to keep this project both from a cohesion standpoint and timeline standpoint, just keep it moving forward. And when you're in great hands, like, don't snatch victory out of the jaws of defeat, or is it the other way around? But don't mess with the good thing. And I think we ought to just proceed.
Thank you.
I would agree with that. And this is not, I would feel differently if the two projects were unrelated and we didn't have, but this is not that case. So we're basically just continuing a project that we've already started. It's the engineering and the installation, I assume, is going to be fairly similar in phase 2 as in phase 1. So I think that it does make sense to continue if we think that a negotiated price is reasonable.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the three of us are in agreement, Bridget, and trust your leadership to move this forward in the right way.
All right, I appreciate your confidence. We will do that.
But we don't need to vote on this either.
No vote, but perhaps public comment.
Yeah. I was going to do that. It's going to take me about 2 minutes to get through that and make sure. So, Alex, I'll ask you if you've heard any or received any comments. I'll start with Alex.
No emails to the public comment email address, and no comments on YouTube as well.
And then, so then anybody on the phone or on the video, either mute or unmute. I think if you're on the phone, it was *6. We'll give it a minute here. Trying to see. Looks like everybody, I trust that we'll give it enough time. So seeing nothing, or hearing nothing more on this, we'll move to item 5, which is public comment. If anybody wanted public comment, hopefully they've been off mute, or, and again, Alex, I'll ask you if you've received any public comments outside of the agenda items?
No public comments have been received.
Hearing none on the phone. I'll talk slowly as we move to others and 6, and just interrupt me if you're getting off mute. Item 6 is old business. Is there any old business?
There's none.
Okay. Any new business? Item 7.
No new business.
Okay. Again, I will entertain a motion to adjourn from one of the trustees.
I think that we adjourn.
Okay, Trustee Kennedy.
I will second the motion.
Trustee Kurzman, second. Bridget, do you want to call a roll on that?
Sure. Trustee Kennedy?
Aye.
Trustee Kurzman?
Aye.
Chairman Sullivan?
Aye. So this was a successful meeting. Very well done. We are officially adjourned.